Hello?
Hi. Okay, it's Amanda again. All right, so first I'm just going to do a quick intro. So I have Tania on the phone. She is mom of five. She has five girls, ages 1.5 up to 12. The two oldest were adopted after they went through the foster system. So we're going to just have some questions about that today. So thank you, Tania, for taking a few minutes to talk to me.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, awesome. So we can kind of just maybe jump into some questions here. I know we're both hiding out in our cars from our children, so we won't take too long. But so first off, what made you interested and want to become a foster parent?
I'm originally a preschool, elementary school teacher, and at the time, back in 2005, my best friend and roommate at the time, she suggested it, wanting to help other kids. She kind of had a rough childhood, and both of us teaching and working with small children saw there was a great need for it, and so I liked the idea and start looking to the process, and we just kind of went from there.
Awesome. That's really cool. And that's cool that you did it with a friend too and not just with your husband. So I think that kind of lets people know it doesn't have to be like, you're married, established. You can, you don't have to wait for that point in your life if you have a calling for that.
Right. I have another good friend from college. She fostered as a single parent and adopted both of her kids as a single parent. So yeah, definitely you don't have to be married to
Yeah,
be a
that's
foster.
really cool. And you were saying that you were in Alaska whenever you did that?
Correct. Yeah, we were in Anchorage at the time.
Awesome. Well, it's still in the United States, so it's probably pretty similar everywhere, I'd say, as far as getting started and things. So what kind of stuff did you guys have to do in order to, get the process started once you decided you wanted to do it?
I know there was an initial application, and then from there, the DCSS, Department of Child Services, Family Services, um, sent their packet of information of what all needs to be done. So there's background checks and fingerprinting and um, home study, coming out, making sure the home is safe. You have to have a space for the children. Windows have to be certain height up so they can escape. All these kind of regulations that fire extinguishers you have to go through, and then also classes. And I
Okay.
know that kind of varies on state, or if you go through a private agency or the
Mm-hmm.
state, on how many classes or how long. Sometimes they're offered for the weekend. Sometimes they're like a 6 to 8 week, once a week class. But there's usually classes involved to
Yeah.
go over different things that you would encounter
Okay.
with children to your home.
Cool. Well, once you got started, what did you kind of think the hardest thing was, once you got going, and what would you tell people would be the hardest thing that you had to deal with?
Um, a lot of you're not always given much information about the children. Sometimes they're given to you with very little information, and um, just trying to help them the best you can. And also, what I didn't realize initially is you become a support for the birth family as well.
Oh, wow.
Um,
I did not know that.
I know the birth mother of my two girls, uh, my roommate especially, she bonded with, and just somebody to talk to, and in the end helped her get out of a really bad relationship. But things like when they would come to the visits at the office, they would bring completely inappropriate food and snacks for tiny kids. I mean,
Oh,
cupcakes
yeah.
at 8 o'clock and so encouraging them on, hey, some healthier options might be to bring fruit, or because you end up being a support also for the families. And
Yeah.
a lot of the behaviors at the time, I don't think we were necessarily trained enough for what behaviors we would get, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a learning curve, and especially not having been a parent before. I mean, I thought having dealt with hundreds of little kids,
Yeah.
preschool and elementary,
Yeah, it's different
that
when you get into bedtime and, all of that crazy
when
stuff too.
they're 24 hours a day, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, just staying. Um, that was hard too. Just that adjustment of going as any new parent from no kids to suddenly two very small children was an adjustment, and just trying to figure them out.
Yeah, definitely. And two, I know you were saying that, like you weren't prepared, especially kind of for the ages and things. You don't know if you need a crib, a toddler bed, that kind of thing. So it's sort of hard to get, what kind of clothes, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Like we were licensed 0 to age 5. Well, there's a big
There's
range
a really big difference. Yeah, exactly.
And whereas new parents might have a baby shower and get all these things, we didn't have any of that, and so had to be prepared and have stroller and crib and infant car seat and toddler car seat and some initial clothes and things like that, bowls and spoons and like my girls came very young, so we had a toddler bed and a crib, and within the first couple of days realized the older one was still too little for the toddler bed, and luckily a friend had a crib. Like, we need another crib.
Yeah, oh no. So it's a lot of kind of last minute adjusting whenever you get started.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's see. What other questions? Oh, so when did kind of talk about the process of going from adoption or going from fostering to adoption, and what's that's like and kind of what drew you to do that?
The girls initially came as a 6 to 12 month placement. The goal was always to reunify most of the time is always to reunify. But we were open to adoption if it would get to that. And in the end, the birth parents made the choice to relinquish their rights. Their situations were just such they realized it wasn't going to be a good situation for the girls, and so really they gave up selfishly of themselves and said selfless and said that and chose to relinquish. I mean, it was a process still, and there was the birth father fought it for about 6 months, and in the end they were not following the program that the state needed them to follow, and so it came down to you either relinquish or we'll go to court and the state will terminate your rights.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a roller coaster ride because things would change by the day or week. You would be told one thing and something else would come up, or you go to another court hearing and it would be completely different than what you were expecting the outcome. So that part is hard.
Yeah, it would be hard to not know what's going to happen, and they've been your kid for however long, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and that could definitely be really hard.
You try to kind of guard your heart for a while, and then you get like, oh, well, maybe they will stay, and you start letting falling more in love with them, and so the emotional roller coaster is definitely difficult.
Exactly. All right. Well, I just have one more question. What advice would you give? I had couples, but single people, roommates, whoever. What advice would you give them about getting started and just about foster care in general?
I would say definitely do your research. To talk to other people who are currently fostering or who have fostered, and read up on and research trauma, because all these kids, they've come into the system for a reason, and majority of the time they've experienced some kind of trauma, and especially in young kids, it affects their brain and behaviors and things like that. So the more prepared you are, I think really helps a lot. I mean, if I could take myself now and go back, how much more I know.
Right.
I mean that just, I guess, going into it with open eyes, that it is going to be a journey. It's going to have its ups and its downs. There's going to be a lot of unknowns, but if you go in with a big heart of wanting to help these kids, you can make a great difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it does take a really big heart. And, hats off to you and my other friends that are doing it and have done it, because it's definitely not easy, but so worth it for that child and their family and, the future for them. So, okay, well, I think that is about it for today, but thank you so much for taking a minute to share your story, and hopefully that can help some people as well. I'll try to find some local resources to post links to along with this interview. So if anybody is wanting to get into that, we'll kind of post some resources there. But thank you so much, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.